Okay, here we are. Oh, can you put water from there in this? Welcome, everyone. Hare Krishna. Oh, Magyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stabitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttaparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sahagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatang Vitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitanscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Mancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vatsadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Saturday Sanga Devotee Assembly Ki Jai. Today is December 4th. Welcome to the month of December 2021. And coming to the end of the year. And continuing in our devotional practices. Calling on Lord Krishna for his presence and help. And on the Vaishnavas for their presence and their help. Mangala-charana, chanting these verses. This is invoking the devotees and the Lord mangala, auspiciousness, acharana, engaging, invoking. And in particular, we want to invoke Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his song, Upalabdhi, Anutapa-laksana-upalabdhi, song number 3. What did we have before this? It's the third song, so let's first review ever so briefly the first song. Whoops, that was an Upanishad. Oh, no, okay. Let's just go back to the song of last week, Anutapa-laksana-upalabdhi, song 2. And this was one of those lamentation songs. We're going to get more lamentation in this section. Anutapa, I think, is like that ongoing remorse for not taking one's time for Krishna Bhakti. In last week's song, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, "Now I realize that all my days had passed uselessly, for I never had the great fortune of association with the devotees of the Lord." And in the second verse, he says, "This is such an unfortunate calamity, for I now consider that I've rejected pure gold simply to become attached and devoted to small clods of dirt." And this is nicely explained by our translator, Dasharat Sutta Prabhu. "I have abandoned the bright-faced golden devotees of the Lord to associate with filthy, dirty persons who are averse to Krishna. And so I wasted my life intoxicated by vanity. Vanity, vanity, all is vanity, as it says in Ecclesiastes of the Hebrew Bible. Whenever I saw someone decorated with it, recording in progress, okay. I overlooked this most auspicious form of spiritual life, which is available only in devotional service. So I wasted my life. Now in my old age, all this polluted material knowledge I worked so hard for is dwindling. It's all going away. Why? Because my memory is fading. My last hope, he says in the final verse, is if the devotees will be merciful to me. And they will sprinkle me with one drop from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the ocean of the nectar of devotion. And then I will instantly and effortlessly become liberated from the strong grip of this material world. I'll be able to cross this ocean of nations. So that was the previous song, and today's song has 4 verses, and this is more lamentation, and at the end, he just curses himself. He says, "Oh, my dear mind, what shall I say to you now? All my time has been spent inside the deep pit of fruitive activities with high hopes of future happiness. In the heavenly planets, I've fallen into the trap of fruitive actions and reactions, which is exactly like the entangling web of a spider. Ore-mana, Karmer, Kuhare, Gelo, svargadi, sukher ashe, porilam, karma-phanse. Phanse means trap, or a net, a trap. Urnanabhi-sama, karma-jal. Urnanabhi-sama, like the web of a spider, of an urna. And jal, it means net. So karma-jal. Upavasa-brata dhori. Okay, I want to be a little quick this time. Observing many different types of austere vows and fasting to achieve some future heavenly goal, I thus perform such useless physical labor for no real tangible result. This was just like pouring oblations of ghee onto dry ashes only. Now I'm being strangled within the noose of karma. Wow. Where am I? Yes, strangled within the noose of karma, being destroyed by my own foolish nonsense. And the only result is that I've not been able to deliver myself from this predicament. Marilam nijadoshe jara-maraner phanse. Old age, death, trap, jara-maraner phanse. Hoibare, narinu udhar. And the third verse, I conducted many sacrifices in honor of many different demigods and goddesses, as is recommended for householders in the varnasrama-dharma system. Nana deba-debi baji mada-garve katainu jivan. But by doing this, I only became so puffed up that I wasted my whole life in such delirious pride. Delirious is like mad. I never got any peace of mind by doing all this, sthira-na-hoilomana, for I completely missed out on the golden treasure, santi-dhana, of spiritual satisfaction. So much trouble I underwent because I never worshipped the beautiful lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Na bhajinu sri-krsna-carana. And here comes his self-cursing. Dik more e jivane, dik more dhana-jane, dik more barna-abhimana, dik more kula-mane, dik shastra adhyayane, hari-bhakti na pailo-sthana. Therefore, to hell with my whole life. To hell with all my wealth and followers. To hell with my caste pride. To hell with all my so-called dignity of family prestige. To hell with my studies of the karma-kanda scriptures. For I have not become fixed up in pure devotion to Lord Hari. Okay, let's see if we can go through this with some accompaniment. Ore mana Karmer Kuhare Gelo svargadi sukher ase porilam karma-phanse svargadi sukher ase porilam karma-phanse urnanabhi-sama karma-jal urnanabhi-sama karma-jal upavasa-brata dhori kaya-klesa kori upavasa-brata dhori kaya-klesa kori Basmegrita dalia apa Basmegrita dalia apa Manilam nijadose jara-maraner phanse parilam nijadose jara-maraner phanse hoibare narinu uda hoibare narinu uda barnasrama-dharma jaji nana deba-debi baji barnasrama-dharma jaji nana deba-debi baji mada-garve kotainu jivan mada-garve kotainu jivan sthirana hoilo mana nalabinu santi-dhana sthirana hoilo mana nalabinu santi-dhana navyajinu sri-krsna-carana navyajinu sri-krsna-carana Dikmor e-jivane Dikmor dhana-jane Dikmor e-jivane Dikmor dhana-jane dikmor, barna-abhimana, dikmor, barna-abhimana, dikmor, kula-mane, dik-shastra adayane, dikmor, kula-mane, dik-shastra adayane, hari-bhakti na-poilostana, hari-bhakti na-poilostana, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Nitai Gora, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Bol. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura ki jai. Yeah, it's interesting that in the last verse of this song, he's simply cursing himself. So, some kind of spiritual expression of remorse, deep remorse, which has the positive result that one turns to Krishna in a strong and firm and strong and definite way. Okay. So again, welcome everyone who have joined us in the last few minutes. And today we're going to have a special guest. And last time I announced who he is, so he's not a mystery guest. His name is Yogendra Das, Yogendra Prabhu, God brother of mine. So he'll come on, Krishna willing, at in half an hour from now. We'll hear some, I'm sure, interesting things from him. He's going to be speaking from Sweden. I think he's somewhere in the far north of Sweden now. Okay, but before that, what do we have? Maybe we have some showing and telling, as they might say in India. I believe, Kshetra-carana, you wanted to share about your reading group, isn't it?
Hare Krishna, please accept my respectful obeisances. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Yes, it's just a very short notice. We have created this WhatsApp group for the children and parents reading group. And so we are very few now. And who would like to join to this group with children? Also, you don't have to have a child. You can always consult us. So we can come together for, let's say, every 15 days, once a month, weekly, and we can share our life and we can discuss what we can do to better serve to the well-being of our children. We can inspire each other. We can share our problems and we can also share our fears, and we can encourage each other to go further because it's a long road. And it's also, until they grow, it's our opportunity to present them Krishna consciousness in a nice way. And time flies and we don't have so much time. So I'd like to invite my God siblings to this group for a nice service to our children.
So it's, if I understand, it's more of a discussion group than a reading group, in the sense you're discussing about how to best help the children to be Krishna conscious. Is that right?
My personal experience is when we try to give a definition, then we always try to keep the things. When Lord inspires us, we try to keep the things narrow. So it's always not to make a clear definition,
Okay.
and then let the Lord inspires us. Because with children, everything takes a turn. The thing here is, if we just come together with good intentions for our children, then incredible amount of inspiration comes, and we can organize games, we can read, and we can bring our children together. And what my experience is, when the parents became friends and shared their hearts, then the children follows. And then in the WhatsApp group, if we always share our life and children, and they always check these images, they look and they check what the other child is doing, and then suddenly curiosity develops. It doesn't work like you sit now, you have a meeting with other children. It doesn't develop like this. It's always a feeling of relationship, love, and it develops with time if we put some effort into it. So the beginning is just coming together with good intentions, and if we give time, a lot of nice things comes out in the end.
Nice. And how many of you are presently in this group?
Yes, at the moment, in our WhatsApp group, I tell you now the names. It is now, at the moment, there is Dira Lalita, because she's like the murti of all the group. Without her, she
She's a groupie. She's a groupie.
she brings the blessing to a group. So it's like it's my psychological need. If she's in the group, I just feel like, okay, things will be okay. And then there is Daitiesa Das, and then there is Nandimukhi Mataji and Sumitra Mataji. And also Bhaktin Ipek from Turkey, because she's forever youthful and she's always and she's, yes, she's like 20. So according to my age, I can also consider her young. And so children are always attracted to young devotees. They find joy, and so we are open to everybody who would like to be with children. I really hope, I pray that our children can connect and start to speak with each other and start to read to each other and also discuss the philosophy together with the parents.
Now, okay, I'm trying to get more of a sense of how it's working, because if you're involving the kids and they're all speaking different languages, how is that working?
At the moment, the language will be English. And so then, and if some parents are really enthusiastic, they can also translate to their children when the group come together. Also, Dira Lalita offered a very nice service. Dira Lalita is giving math lesson.
Her hand is up, so maybe she's going to explain about that.
Yes, at the moment she's very busy with Vyasa Puja preparations. So at the moment we delay everything after the Vyasa Puja. But and she's thinking also to engage this very young Bhakta who is 14 years old to create relationship with the other younger children, and he's agree also to do this. And yes, the language will be English, definitely.
Great, all the best for this. Now maybe Dira Lalita wants to add her purport.
Hare Krishna very much. I didn't want to actually comment on the Kshetra-carana's reading group. I had something else regarding hermeneutics and understanding of sutras and siddhantas. But I don't know if we have time. And I'm very happy to be also a part of the Kshetra-carana's reading group for children. Working with children, one becomes a bit like half child. So I start thinking as a child out of the box. So so I'm very happy to be and support as much as I can. Kshetra-carana is she's very caring as a mother, and I'm sure that group will really take off and maybe spread the branches into other countries. So devotees from other countries can also create a group of reading for their children, their languages.
Yeah.
But I had something else. I don't know if there is time for this.
Well, let's see.
So very much. You started talking about hermeneutics from 18th of September, and I went through all of my notes, trying to understand the way of understanding Shastra, and when I'm reading to actually apply the knowledge for that. Even though this course is obviously for teachers who are on a certain level and have certain qualities and firm sadhana, and they're very, very learned scholars. But one thing came across to me that comparing sutras and siddhantas, so I came across, I mean, working with mathematics for past about 40 years, I came across to also applying the nyaya to mathematical methodology as well. So long time ago, there is the Aristotelian methodology came up, which is still used now in modern mathematics, and he established two basic starting points in mathematical science, which is axioms and hypotheses. But I somehow came across that the axioms, for devotees who maybe didn't come across this word, means that that's the statement that is worth of acceptance. It's sort of the truth that doesn't need convincing, and hypotheses are something that is or isn't. It means it needs to be proved to be or not to be.
Right.
So I was just thinking, but in order to prove hypotheses, we use axioms as the actual knowledge in order to prove a hypothesis. And I was just wondering, in our siddhantas, this is my question. So I was comparing axioms with sutras, and I was comparing hypotheses with siddhantas, because the siddhanta is, I think, ultimately hypothesis, because it's not a before it's actually proved that is siddhanta. Before that happens, before siddhanta happens, there is a process of having different knowledge from different shastra in order to establish siddhanta. And so I was sort of trying to understand with my very limited brains what sutras are and what siddhantas are. And I wanted to ask a question after going through all of the notes that we've learned from you, from your kind, like, vast knowledge. Is the knowledge of the sutras always used to create siddhantas in our Vaishnava Gaudiya tradition? Do the siddhantas actually depend on sutras? Because sutras are the truth.
Well, I think I need some clarification now. What are you referring to with sutras? Do you mean Vedanta sutras?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, if we go from the perspective of, let's call it the practice of Vedanta as a kind of reasoning process about ultimate reality, then we have three sources, not one. One of them is Vedanta Sutras or Brahma Sutras. And it's called Prasthana Traya. There are three, it's like a tripod. Actually, if you have something, tripods can be quite stable, If you have two legs, it's not enough, it'll fall over. You can have four legs, but then one of them might be a little bit short, and then the chair is wobbling. But if you have three legs, it doesn't matter, one can be shorter or longer. And it doesn't matter if the floor is level. You get a quite solid position. So Vedanta Sutra is one of these Prasthana is one of these foundations, and then the Upanishads in general. But it's a little fuzzy when we talk about Upanishads, because which Upanishads? Tradition says there are 108 Upanishads, but it's really only about 12 or 13 Upanishads that are referred to in Vedanta, traditional Vedanta discourse. But anyway, there's the Upanishads, and there's Bhagavad Gita is the third pillar. And this is recognized by all the different Vedanta schools, including Shankaracharya. Even though the Bhagavad Gita is so strongly, clearly personalistic, if you like, he accepted Bhagavad Gita as one of the three sources of knowledge. So, yeah. And also it's, in another way, it's more complicated, and that is that the sutras of Vedanta Sutra are, in a sense, their aim is to crystallize and make clear one kind of single siddhanta from the many Upanishads. So it's considered as, I don't know if we can even use the word summary, but it's kind of extracting from the Upanishads, because the Upanishads are quite extensive, even those 13 Upanishads, just taking the largest ones. The Brihad Aranyaka is maybe the longest. Then the Chandogya, the Taittiriya Upanishads. You know, these are all very extensive, quite extensive texts.
Wow.
And they seem to say different things. And therefore, the Vedanta Sutra is there to say, well, here's the actual point. But then, what do these sutras mean? Because the sutras are so compact. They're like codes, and to crack the code is a challenge. And therefore, you have different schools of Vedanta who are interpreting the Vedanta Sutras in different ways. And they can be quite radically different interpretations, because these statements are so compact, you know. Yeah, the very first verse, Atato Brahma Jignasa. Ramanujacharya has a super long commentary just on that first sutra. And he's already, with that first sutra, he's disagreeing with Shankara. He's arguing against Shankara. So, but generally speaking, to use your terminology, to say I would say within Vedanta, the Prasthana Traya as a whole, yeah, in a sense, you could say they're axiomatic. They are considered kind of final authority and so on. But as I said, it's hard to understand. You know, the Vedanta Sutra and the Upanishads are seeming to say many things. And so in its Tattva Sandarbha, that's one of the reasons that Srila Jiva Goswami is giving, that we can't just try to understand ultimate truth from these texts. We need help from, first he says, broadly speaking, from the Mahabharata and the Puranas. But there's so many Puranas, and the Mahabharata also is saying so many things. And so then he kind of boils it down to the Srimad Bhagavatam, for which then he gives extensive explanation why the Bhagavatam is the final word, so to say. It's the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic knowledge. So,
thank you, Guru. It's much more complicated than maths.
Yeah, it gets complicated because then, somebody will quote something from the Bhagavatam in somewhere, and somebody will quote something somewhere else in the Bhagavatam, and they may disagree on something. So then what? How do we work? Well, that's where commentaries can help, and therefore ours is a commentarial tradition. The commentators illuminate the Bhagavatam, beginning with Sridhar Swami. And last week, that was where we just began to touch that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is emphasizing how Sridhar Swami is our first authority on the meaning of the Bhagavatam. And therefore he's scolding Vallabhacharya for jumping over Sridhar Swami. And he uses quite strong words, and at the same time he's smiling. So what exactly was his mood, we don't, hard to say. But yeah. Okay, I'll stop there because I'm looking at the clock and I see Darya Chandrika and Dharmakota have their hand raised.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna devotees. So it will be just quick, so not to interrupt the guest who is coming soon. Basically, I'd like to share a few, actually two nice events which we have recently in our region here, which is also quite uncommon for the Corona time. Right now, we actually had two beautiful events. One of them is more of the local character, and that's the related to our Kirtan Dubai team. And we had our yearly desert Kirtan, which is basically event usually held in different yoga studios, but this time was in a desert, actually in the middle of the desert, without much resources, without much propensities. We managed somehow, I mean, by the mercy of Krishna and devotees, to actually have a very nice event around the bonfire. And we had a unbelievable opportunity to have a special guest here, none other than His Grace Madhava Prabhu was here, and his good wife Radhika Mataji. So it was really like a surprise for everyone, and as Harinam Prabhu said, like a fulfillment of his dream, just to have such a setup and such an environment. So if you allow me, just quickly, I will share just 10-15 seconds, 20 maybe, of that event, just to see how the atmosphere, how was it? Second.
Oops. Okay.
So that was the part of the atmosphere. When it got fired,
Yeah, very nice.
first was, of course, 1 hour of slow Mahamantra in Madhava Prabhu style.
And we have to say here, Guru Maharaj, that this was the project of Kirtan Dubai, which means that half of the people were totally new people. They're not, because Kirtan family, if I can say like that, because of course there are many who are coming again and again and again. Few of them really wanted to continue, go a little bit, go more deeper. So they already also started to chant, but more or less they're just, every Friday we have Kirtan Dubai. So it's like party time. And those people invited their friends. So they really, some of them came for the first time and, 1 hour and a half, like really meditation of Madhava. But everybody in the end, they were so, they said that they don't know what was the experience. It was for the first time because they couldn't explain what was happening. They just enjoy, and they said that, what was this? It was really amazing. And again, also Madhava Prabhu and Radhika Mataji, they are also very, how to say, when the evening or official evening was over, they stayed with us for 1 hour and a half. So they spoke with all of those who wanted to talk with them. So they stayed with us. So it was not just, okay, we did it and now we will go, but it was really a good association also for all of us.
They got stuck in the desert, so they had no choice. And one fun fact, actually, I know as I'm roaming around doing these different services, I was noticing at the end of when everything was finished, the main kirtan was finished, since it's a desert and it's a part of folklore here that people are just going desert camping, like a residents here and locals and everyone. That was the part of the winter sports here. So I noticed it's a pitch dark, completely darkness around except the bonfire and starry sky. And when everything was finished, we just hear the quads, motorbikes. They were just starting the engines and just leaving. So they just silently came attending the kirtan, like 10 of them, 15 of them. These guys who are running the dunes, chasing the dunes. And so it's like so many random people just took part in it, and it was unbelievable experience. Like people from other camps, they just sneak in and just see what's going on there because we were the only noisy. We had a power generator with loudspeakers, with everything. It was like a really interesting experience.
Oh.
So yeah, that's the first part. I don't know if you have time for the second part. Just quickly, also one nice event, or maybe should we continue after the Yogendra Prabhu's talk?
Well, is he with us yet?
Okay, then we can share after the.
Yes, I am.
Oh,
here.
you are here. Hare Krishna, Yogendra Prabhu. There you are. Swagatam, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. It's an honor.
You're speaking now from somewhere way up from the North Pole, maybe something like that.
Yes, it's northern Sweden, about 150 kilometers from the polar circle.
Wow.
It was clear sky today, so there was some hours of light here because there's snow everywhere. So the sun.
So you got 1.5 hours of light.
Sun ray about an hour or so, but the light actually in the northern latitudes here, the dawn takes a long time and the sunset. So there's actually about 6 hours of
semi
twilight. Right word.
Yeah, it's very mysterious up there, I know. So let me just say, first of all, let me introduce everyone else to you, not going through everyone's names, but we have a gathering every week since the COVID pandemic started. And we're coming from different parts of the universe. you can say. I guess we're mainly in Europe, but also in North and South America, and all the way over to Hong Kong and Beijing. And sometimes someone from India might be with us. So we're kind of around the planet. Yes, Mada-garve is there from India, and Mada-garve times 2, I see. Kalakanta is your label.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, that's me.
So, yeah, we're just coming together once a week for a couple of hours, and now and then I like to have special guests, such as your good self, so that to help devotees appreciate the wide world of our society, and to appreciate the wonderful, more and more of the wonderful Sanga of devotees that we have worldwide. And I have to say, you and I cross paths fairly rarely. In recent years, I guess especially because you're somewhere near the North Pole. You're originally from the U.S., as I understand. Which part of the U.S.?
East Coast, Philadelphia.
From Philadelphia. But you came to Sweden at one point, and now you are a fluent speaker of svenska, and you're teaching high school now.
Right. In the last 5 years, after 40 years of service in the temples in Sankirtan, on doing needful, then when I got my state pension, which fortunately the social democratic setup here in Sweden awards to everyone, even those who we didn't pay any taxes. So at that time, about 6 years ago, when I got my pension, then I decided to go get a teaching degree. And now here I am in older days. And by the arrangement of God, there's an acute lack of teachers now in Sweden, and now become like America, that, you know, as long as you're physically and mentally able, you can go on working. That was not like that before. Previously, the stop date was 67. No one would teach after that, but now I can follow in the footsteps of my elder sister, who she taught. She's my role model in this late life career, because she actually taught psychology at a community college in New Jersey until she was 80.
Wow.
She was a teacher originally, but then she worked at other things during her career. But then when she retired at 65, she was offered a teaching job, and she loved it. And so let's see what Krishna has in store for. But,
that would be in itself an interesting topic. But you have mentioned 3 topics that you'd like to talk about. And before that, can we just hear in brief form how I joined the Hare Krishna story of yourself?
Yes, I snuck in under the wire.
Okay.
Prabhupada's last, I think also his largest initiation in Mayapur on Gaur Purnim in 1977. I was extremely fortunate to be one of the 300. Can you imagine?
Oh.
And he was already in ill condition, you know, and just 6 months before he was passing away, and still he was taking on this enormous weight of accepting so many disciples. But how I got there to Mayapur in '77 was that I met devotees already in '69 in America. I think it was Bhavananda in Boulder, Colorado, and I met him on the street, and I asked him about cosmic consciousness. I'd read a book by a Canadian author, Edmund Burke, I think his name was. And he just shook his head and said, my friend, whatever it is you're looking for, you're not going to find until you surrender to Krishna. I wasn't ready, unfortunately, then. And in the next year or the year after that, in '71, I heard George Harrison chanting Hare Krishna at the concert, the benefit concert for Bangladesh in Madison Square Garden in New York in 1971. That made a deep impression upon me. His faithfulness to, religious upbringing. He was brought up as a Catholic also, I knew, as I was. And then when I heard him singing Hallelujah in the beginning, I was thinking, oh, that's great. He retains that, his faith from his upbringing. And then at the end, when he started chanting Hare Krishna at the end of the song, My Sweet Lord, I'm talking about, I almost fell off my seat, because I didn't know much that God is a person or anything. I was bewildered by, yoga, impersonalist thought. But I intuitively understood that he was totally dedicated to God. And I just thought, I want to be like that. But that it didn't.
Dr. George brought you to Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. Bless his soul, like many of our contemporaries, isn't it? But okay, what happened was that I understood a couple of years after that I was getting nowhere fast and that I was missing the boat. I better get out of here and turn over a new leaf. Where to go? Well, for different reasons, I chose Sweden. And as soon as I got here, I was fortunate to meet someone who brought me to the newly started temple. And it was really Krishna's mercy, because I got in on the book distribution from the when it was just getting started here. So that was really pioneer, wonderful, exciting, and tasteful experience of traveling Sankirtan in villages, in especially here in northern Sweden, where people they don't usually meet foreigners, and they were more or less defenseless when somebody would come and give them a book on the street and go in North Sweden. So that was how and then Prabhupada. Now I want to tell my story about.
Yes, please.
Yeah, what happened was that Prabhupada was making his final around the world tour in 1976 in the summer, and he before coming to Europe and back to India for the last time, except for a short visit to Bhaktivinoda Manor in '77, but the last time we went across the Atlantic from America to Europe, the temple president went to meet him there in Bhaktivinoda Manor, Bhagavan Prabhu, and then he called up his vice president, Ajit Prabhu, and said, send the Sankirtan men to New Mayapur, France, the farm there. So I hopped in the van with the other Sankirtan devotees, and we went down there. I had actually been chanting 6 months the holy name and following the principles. So the temple president, Bhagavan Prabhu, had recommended me and gotten a letter from Prabhupada. So I was on the waiting list for initiation, and I collected some darshan. I think I went around dressed as a monk.
You mean some dakshin?
Dakshin, what did I say?
You said darshan.
Oh no, yeah, sorry, thank you. Dakshin, yes, dakshin. So I stopped in the town in South Sweden and went around one day and told him I was a monk and I was going to meet my guru and give me a donation. It was really a wild thing. So I collected 70 Swedish crowns. It's about $7. I mean, went down there, and then Bhagavan was there, and he I think he used this as an excuse to get in to see Prabhupada. You know, I had to give him some dakshin. So then he did that, and I heard that Prabhupada, gracefully accepted the 70 Swedish kroner, but he was practical. This was not, interchangeable at those days. So he looked at it and he said, "Can you change it to dollars?" And Bhagavan came back to me and said, "Okay, yeah, he accepted. You want to guard his door tonight?" And I said, "Oh yeah, sure." Because Prabhupada was not well then. The story went. This is I want to make the theme of Prabhupada's resilience and his, beyond the call of duty, dedication to spreading Bhaktisiddhanta and Lord Chaitanya's mission. That although he wasn't well, he didn't come out the first couple of days. So there was like a large number of devotees gathering there, waiting for Prabhupada to come out. So anyway, I got to guard the door that night. This is at New Mayapur in France, right? Right, in August of 1976. And Prabhupada's room is on the first, by European standards, the first floor, one flight up. Mm-hmm. There, I went there in the night, and pitch dark, everybody sleeping, and there was a French brahmachari, couldn't speak a word of English, and he gave me a stick, as if, I was, Kshatriya or something, and he gave me some cookies, and I, was sitting there, and then I heard Prabhupada speaking through the door, and then, later I could reconstruct that Prabhupada was doing as usual, that he got up in the middle of the night and was doing his dictation work, and later you can see that he was just finishing the 8th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which he finished shortly thereafter in India. So he must have been working on that there. And anyway, so then the next day or so, then it was announced that Prabhupada is going to go for a walk. Finally, we've been waiting for days, and then Prabhupada, I knew where his room was, so I went up the stairs there, and I was just standing at the top of the stairs looking at his door, it's kind of like in a dark corridor there. And then the door opened, and then, there was a burst of light. Later, I could explain that wasn't actually, some mystical experience, but it was just that there are windows behind Prabhupada's room there when the door opens. But everybody else says that when they first saw Prabhupada, it was like a burst of effulgence. In any case, it was that for me also. And whether it was mystical or just plain scientific light, I'm not sure. But then somebody told me, I can't remember exactly. I got out of the way, I guess. And then somebody told me, "Oh, you can only go on the walk if, for senior devotees." So, I was very docile, stupid as I was. And I just waited there in the temple room. And then after an hour or so, Prabhupada came back, and he sat on the Vyasa-san. And that was the one and only time that I remember chanting Sri Guru Charana Padma, although it was evening time, but we had a Guru Puja, and we chanted Sri Guru Charana Padma for Prabhupada. And then he went up without speaking. And then there was going to be initiations the next day, and I was on the list. But I had confided in Bhagavan Prabhu that I was very agitated, actually, because, my service was distributing books in our little tiny temple in Stockholm, and I had my routine there. But on the farm, there were the grihastas and brahmacharinis, and I was destined later to get married and live on the farm in Sweden. So, I confided in Bhagavan, waiting days there without any real service, that I was, feeling restless, and he was worried about me. And I think he had good reason to be. So anyway, he said, "Okay, now you saw Prabhupada, so everybody get in the car and go back to your service in Sweden." And the Sankirtan leader was, no, you know, we have driven all over Europe to get here, and there's going to be initiation tomorrow. You know, we can't just leave. And then Bhagwan looked at me and he said, well, Bhakti John, what do you think? As if, you know, I mattered. And then I told him, I said, you know, I was feeling that, you know, I really wanted, you know, get some engagement, you know. So I said, yeah, we should go back. And then he said, settle, get in the car. So, you know, we drove back to Sweden. And then I got initiated by letter in Stockholm shortly thereafter. And Jaya Tirtha Prabhu, he did yeah. So anyway, that was Prabhupada's resilience there, that he was very, very sick, but still he accepted us as disciples at great personal sacrifice there. And that same theme was there in my Brahmin initiation. Like I mentioned, in 1977, a year, was that, well, about half a year later, that we were 300 and Prabhupada was really not well. In fact, in Tamal Krishna Maharaj's later days, diarrhea, taking care of Prabhupada, Prabhupada confided in him that I feel like a, you know, I feel like a workhorse, you know, who's beaten, you know. And then, so then Prabhupada accepted us there, and I got my Brahmin initiation. I got sent, we were sent off, you know, there was 100 of us who got Brahmin initiation and 200 first initiates. So we 100 Brahmin initiates, we got sent to different leading disciples, you know, Prabhupada disciples to get our paper and instructions how to count on our fingers, etc. So I got sent to Bhavananda Prabhu, and then he, yeah, and then we went on to Vrindavan and then on to Bombay. And then what happened was that Prabhupada.
But can I ask, so, but then did you go in and hear the mantras from Prabhupada?
No, we heard the tape. Yeah, which.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there was a tape.
Well, I don't know, does that make me a Ritvik or? No, Prabhupada was giving a pre-samadhi Ritvik, you know, Bhavananda was my, you know.
No, but the recording, it was Prabhupada's voice.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So then you went to Vrindavan.
Exactly, yeah. And then we had a nice experience there. Went on to Bombay. And then what happened was that Prabhupada suddenly jumped out of bed and came to Bombay and made a Pandal program. And although he wasn't well enough, it was because that the worrisome charge of undue influence and brainwashing that had been accused against by the district attorney or the prosecutor in New York against the temple president in New York was very, very worrisome. It seemed like it was going to be a long, drawn-out case threatening the very existence of Krishna movement in the United States. But then the case was thrown out of court on the first day. The judge said this is a bona fide religion, and that these persons who were supposedly, you know, influenced to against their will to take part in this, their freedom of religion has to be respected. So then it was on the Times of India that, you know, Krishna consciousness is a bona fide religion. And when Prabhupada got that news, he became so alive and he just jumped out of his sick bed. We go to Bombay and make a Pandal. This is another example of Prabhupada's resilience.
Yeah.
So then the other 2 points were, that was Prabhupada's resilience at my initiations. The other 2 points were, that was kind of past. Now I want to go to the present, and that my present service is that I want to make a sthala purana. That is to say that every installed deities, every temple who has installed deities around the world have been ordered by a GBC resolution to have a description of how the temple was acquired, how the deities were acquired, how they were installed, and any special pastimes with His divine grace, and also an ongoing history of the temple service and functions.
Mm-hmm.
So I started that already in the 90s. I got the go ahead from, at that time, GBC was Hari Kshetra Swami, and he encouraged me to do that. And I started then, and it's been a slow process. But now lately, when I've gotten back into school in the last 5 years, I've gotten a little training there and have now come up to the point of the installation of the Radha Krishna deities at the BBT temple in Korshness Gord near Stockholm.
Gandharvika Giridhari?
Gandharvika Giridhari, yes.
Mm.
Yeah, that was 1980. 1980. So that far I got. But now the next step is it turns to the farm. The farm was acquired at that time. So the board there at the farm has, encouraged me to continue there. So I started interviewing the old devotees there, and it's an interesting story. But one thing that I became aware of was that there are a number of devotees who feel forgotten. Maybe even some of them felt, excluded. Some of those who did very significant services, sacrificed the best years of their life during those, to establish the farm and the cow protection and the deities and the book distribution. And at that time it was, save the Soviet Hare Krishnas. There were so many things going on there.
Yeah.
There. And, I felt so what I concluded is that we decided that we want to make a guest cottage at the farm and invite all the devotees, especially the devotees. There are some ladies who collected immense amounts of Lakshmi to, establish the infrastructure there at the farm. And now sometimes, so we want to, in any case, we have a plan there. So I'm working on that. My service at the farm was for years to work in the forest and to saw lumber.
Yeah.
So we've sold the lumber for the cottage. It's stacked and drying, and it's even planed, with nice tongue and groove paneling, etc. But there's a lot of other expenses there. In Sweden, you need a really good fireplace, which costs. So if you want to have a heavy fireplace which retains heat, you have to. It's an investment. So anyway, my salary. I'm living on my pension. God bless Swedish government. My salary at high school goes for the cottage expenses, windows, doors, insulation. The other thing. It's
very nice.
Yeah, so that's my present service. Now the future is, I want to think about Prabhupada's, this is my third point, about how Prabhupada left this world. He was exemplary, and he was anxious, it's said, that his passing would be glorious. He had the tremendous weight of being the unique disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta who went to the West, and he made this possible for so many thousands of, now hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of us to become Krishna conscious. So he wanted to set a good example, his final test. And So I'm thinking that, yeah, in elder days, that I should follow in his footsteps and think about how to, when everything is said and done, you know, as long as I'm well enough, I want to be active in service, but I'm thinking about how to be prepared to. Prabhupada used to sing this song. It's by Yamunacharya. Krishnas tvadi pada pankaja pancharantam Adyaiva
me Vishatumanasa Raja Prana Prayana Samaye Kabavatta Pitar
Antavarodhananido
Smaranam Kutaste.
Lord Krishna, may the Supreme Personality of Godhead, may the swan of my mind immediately sink down the stems of the lotus feet of your Lordship and become firmly locked there in their network. Otherwise, at the time of my death, when I'm taking my final breath and my throat is choked with cough, how would it be possible for me to think of you? So my last thing is that in the end of the 90s already, the GBC made a resolution that all the leaders in ISKCON and everyone in ISKCON, I don't think it was a resolution, I think it was a recommendation, actually, let me correct myself there, that you should consider writing a so-called DNR. And that's, in English, I mean, it's a, what's it called, acronym, you know, it means do not resuscitate. In other words, you can, in most countries, here in Sweden also, the laws are naturally different from country to country, but you can make a living will, you can call it.
Yeah, I've done that myself.
Yeah. And yeah, okay, and I'm thinking that I've told devotees I'm thinking about it, and the GBC recommended, and so it means that in Sweden it's called a power of attorney, where it's a very simple form actually. We've made it formal for anyone in our congregation can use it, and you can adjust it. It's totally according to the Swedish law tells the doctors they have to respect the autonomy. No doctor can insist that any patient will undergo a treatment that patient doesn't want. The government has complained that the doctors are often put into a position where they have no idea what the patient wants because the patient is not capable. If the patient is in a coma or is in, has become senile, or so then the doctor just has to, often because the family members are not prepared to hear that it is now at the point of palliative care. There's no hope. The doctor knows there's no hope. Now it's palliative care, but because the family members won't hear that, so then the doctor has to use override too much medicine. He knows that it's, so therefore you can write in Sweden, it's called a power of attorney. You give it to your son, your daughter, your friend, or temple president, and then it says there that I don't want, you can write whatever you want, but you could say that I don't want to go into the intensive care unit. I don't want dialysis and respirator and this, that, and the other thing. I don't, I would like to hear Hare Krishna at the end. Now, of course, there are cases if I were a young devotee and I had young children who were dependent upon me, I might think twice about writing it, DNR. But or maybe in the case of some of our highly elevated, God brothers who have many, many disciples who are really begging him to please don't leave us, then maybe I would also, I can imagine that they would consider also. But in any case, like, my daughter and her children are well taken care of, and I don't So that's thank you very much. That were my 3 points. That was about the resilience of Prabhupada at the time of my initiations, and also about my present project to do this. Please bless me that I may be able to accomplish this rather complex task of making the Stala Purana for the Panchatattva deities at the temple. And my third thing about future, about thinking about following Srila Prabhupada's exemplary leaving this world. Hare Krishna.
These are all very nice reflections and sharing, but we're not going to let you go quite so quickly. Yeah, you mentioned the Stala Purana thing, and I realized I don't even remember how, but I was somehow involved in that, getting that as something the GBC wanted back then. So I think you're the only one in the whole planet who remembers that and are taking it seriously. So all glories to your service.
Maharaj, I actually wrote you back in long time ago when I was just getting going, and the GBC resolution actually says Stapak Shastra. And I wrote you about, and I said, can you give me some guidance how to get going on this Stapak Shastra? And you wrote me back and said, well, actually, the GBC resolution was not the best terminology. Actually, the more logical or the correct thing is to call it Stala Purana.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Oh, that I don't remember, but okay. I want to sort of open up and see if any of you who are with us would like to ask Yogendra Prabhu anything about anything he's talked about, or maybe something he's not talked about. But before that, I would like to ask you if you can say a few words about your master's thesis, which you've kindly shared with me. I find it really interesting because a substantial element of that research was that you sat in Bhagavatam classes in Mayapur, and you then interviewed devotees who gave classes and who were listening to classes, and you analyzed in a highly systematic way within the framework of education theory. So can you say a few words about that, what that was about?
Yeah, thank you, Maharaj. You have sharp memory there. This was 2018, and the study, I was there for 20 weeks there in India on a grant from the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency. And they were interested, or I got them the grant because I tried to argue that we need religious education as a sustainable development indicator. Because, with religion is intimately connected, the education of religion, religious education is intimately connected with values like, cleanliness and self-control and ardor. Honesty, like that. And these are necessary for a community. And the community is absolutely necessary for sustainable development. So they bought that, and I went to Mayapur to research how religion has impacted the the Mayapur community, both in ISKCON and also outside in Mayapur. So, but one aspect of the important aspect, the most Krishna conscious aspect, was how the Bhagavatam was a cohesive influence on the Mayapur community, and how although the community is very large now, and the Bhagavatam is a part of, is just one part of the whole community. My finding was that because those devotees and at Mayapur and visiting devotees have spent so much time and constant focus on that morning program, that these values have had large impact on the whole community's being, like that.
Mm-hmm. I remember you interviewed me as well. I happened to be there. And I'm also remembering your work because last year I gave a presentation, a short presentation in the American Academy of Religion conference on the subject of reading the Bhagavatam as religious reading. It was a special panel about South Asian literature. Oh, I wish I could remember how to express the theme, but it was about sort of challenging modern scholarship, which is always trying to find something in between the lines, something, what's really being said is, something else, something hidden. The hermeneutics of suspicion, as it's been called. I think Paul Ricoeur used that term. Anyway, so I gave a short presentation, and I wanted to spend more time looking at your thesis to get a better grasp of what you were saying, but I was a bit rushed. But I should get back to it, I think. Now, on the subject of the Bhagavatam, and this is a little bit as a, let's call it maybe a warning. I want to contact you later privately, Yogendra Prabhu. We have an idea, we means myself and Radhika Raman Prabhu in America. We have this Bhagavata Purana research project, and we have an idea of how you might be able to help us.
I'd love to be at your service.
Okay.
I wrote to Radhika Ramana recently about a question about the Bhagavad Gita. Nice exchange there.
Whoops, the contact, at least on my side, was not so good just then. Let me now jump to a question in the chat. Bhagavati Devi Dasi says, I was serving Sri Gandharvika Giridhari for some time in 1988, but they took my heart. Could you kindly say a few words about the installation ceremony of Gandharvika Giridhari, please?
First thing that comes to my mind was that when the curtains opened, the devotees, they just screamed.
They screamed.
Yeah, exactly. That's what. But the word installed had been so loaded there, right? I think Hari-Bhakti Swami, well, first of all, Prabhupada was asked by Ajit already before anybody had come to Sweden that he and his wife Krishna Premi, they wanted to install Radha Krishna in Sweden. And Prabhupada said, yes, this is a wonderful idea. This was in Australia. I will come and help you, Prabhupada said. He had big hopes for Sweden because, a man by the name of Walter Eidlitz had been a follower of Bhakti, of Sadananda Swami. Sadananda Swami, the German, So anyway, to make a long story short, he came to Sweden and he printed a book called, in German, it was, the life and teachings of Lord Chaitanya, a big book.
Big, thick book,
And it was published by the Stockholm University. And he sent it to Prabhupada in 1968, and Prabhupada was in Canada waiting for his green card. And this was, for Prabhupada, it was like, yes, Europe is ready, a big book. And then, he had big hopes for Sweden. So when the first Swedish devotee said, we want to install Radha Krishna, Prabhupada said, yes, I'll come and help you. So then, long story short, they were installed in 1980, Gandharvika Giridhar. And the BBT was getting going there by, Hari Kesha's Swami, or erstwhile Swami was, and it was named after Bhaktisiddhanta's favorite deities who were, near the printing press there in Mayapur. And they're being taken care of to this day very, very nicely. You can see on the daily darshan there how nicely they are being served there. So thank you very much, Bhagavata Devi.
Bhagavati.
Your service there in 1988 was certainly never forgotten. Please keep your heart there at their lotus feet there. They're there for you.
Yes, if you ever get a chance, all of you who are here, go to Gandharvik, go to Korsnäs Gård in Sweden and also Almvik, and have darshan of Gandharvika Giridhari and of Shri Shri Panchatattva in Almvik's Gård, which leads us to the next question from Iris. She is asking, Hare Krishna, dear Yogendra Prabhu, pranams, more and more pranams. Thank you very much for such personal introduction. What could you say about Sri Panchatattva temples of ISKCON? How do you perceive in your heart different deities of the same Sri Panchatattva? Thank you, your aspiring servant, Iris. I think one reason she may be asking this is because she's from Slovenia, and in Slovenia, in Ljubljana, is also Sri Sri Panchatattva temple. So any thoughts about the glorious five? The fabulous five? How's that?
My experience is very limited. Actually, I've never seen any other Panchatattva deities except for the small Panchatattva deities in Stockholm. And I think, Krishna Kshetra Swami would be it would be audacious of me to try and answer this question in his presence. Because, I've been in Sweden only. That's my Prabhudatta Desh. And so please, Maharaj, can you save us here.
I can say, oh, what to say? The first Panchatattva deities installed, I believe, were in Hawaii. And I've never been to Hawaii. And I believe there are Panchatattva deities in Laguna Beach in Southern California. I've never been to that temple, although as a kid, I used to visit Laguna Beach quite a bit. So I can't really say much about them. We also have Panchatattva here in Poland, in the southwest, the new Shantipur farm. And so not that far from Sweden, we have Panchatattva. What to say? Unlimited Ananda expanded times 5. I always remember when we first got Srila Prabhupada's translation of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi-lila Adi-lila chapter 7, called Lord Chaitanya in 5 Features. It was a paperback book, and it was kind of life-changing. It was like, yes, Sankirtan, this is what it's all about. Plundering the storehouse of love of God. Let's go for it. That was very powerful. Yeah, Prabhupada didn't want to wait until the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita came out. He felt this chapter in particular was so powerful that let everyone get it. So that was a fond memory of my early days in Germany. But I see Kaveri's hand is up. Kaveri, do you want to say something or ask?
Hare Krishna, Guru. Hare Krishna, Yogendra Prabhu. Thank you so much for this talk. It was very inspiring and moving. And I often think about, very touching what you said about remembering all these devotees that work so hard. It's something that I always have in my mind, this heritage that we have, that it's not just our connection to, with Vaishnavism in the East, but our heritage in ISKCON, our own story is how this happened in the West. And I'm from Argentina, and
Argentina, now in Boston.
Now in Boston, but I'm always in Argentina. So my mind, my heart, and I always talk about this with senior devotees in that community, and about all those who took part in different times of our movement there. Like there was a big mission to get a new temple. And now it's not new anymore. It happened already a decade ago. But so many made an effort to get that. They without even speaking English, they came to the US. They really put a lot of effort. Recently, Sudevi, a very young Vaishnavi, passed away. And then I think I'm seeing Daitesha. I think all older devotees that worked so hard to get the marble for the temple altar. We went through a dictatorship. So many things. Also, like the great book distributors, usually also Vaishnavis. And I always think I don't want them to be forgotten. Like they went through so much I didn't even went through, but I've heard those stories. So I'm always thinking, how do we do that? Would you suggest that we all write our notes about our tiny parts of the story? And then it could be a start for maybe one day putting everything together.
Yeah, I mean, Krishna Kshetra Swami pointed out that it's a mission unfulfilled, that we have our deities documented for future generations. So please, don't forget anyone. Make sure that everyone is accounted. Of course, Krishna remembers everything, and Prabhupada is certainly also with us and totally reciprocating with every single little and large service that anyone is doing. So it's not that anyone is forgotten, but it is as far as it is within our power to make sure that someone who may feel forgotten may be encouraged that no, we are, you did it, and that was wonderful. And it really is the basis upon which now we can go on for others to be benefited. That's just human.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
If I can add to that, I would say there's a variety of ways of recording. So one is encouraging devotees to write your personal story and memories. And another way is just interviewing devotees and recording. It can be audio recording, can be video recording. This can be in many ways the easiest, because for most devotees, writing is a challenge, to say the least. But talking is kind of no problem. So if you can get someone, and actually now we've sort of all discovered Zoom. So you can do this also with Zoom. You can record, just make an appointment with someone, we just want to hear from you, your memories. And often it's just a matter of asking one or two questions, and they're often running, and if you get more than one devotee in a room where they've been together, they've shared experience together, they'll remind each other, and then you can really get things going. And this becomes part of what's called, it's a whole field of history now called oral history. One of the first projects that our center in Oxford took on was an oral history project of recording memories of immigrants, Hindu immigrants from India coming to the UK. And we got a huge grant, a few £100,000 from the British government to do that, because this kind of thing is valued. I've asked I think 3 devotees in Germany to do this for Germany, and gradually they've gotten a few recordings. There's a professor who just a few months ago departed the world, Tom Hopkins, very, very sweet scholar, devotee, I don't know, but friend of the devotees, definitely, well-wisher of ISKCON. And many times he said, you ISKCON, you have to record your history. You got to get your history down. Otherwise, it's like it didn't happen. And I think the starting point is individuals and their memories.
Thank you so much. Very helpful.
Mm-hmm. So good. Krishna Krishna. Well, thank you all. And special thanks to you, Yogendra Prabhu, for giving us your time. Before we end, I have a little homework task for our assembled devotees, a little reading. And I think I have to write this in the chat, but then you're going to have to write it down to remember, because the chat's going to disappear. Oh, Sita Sundari, who you may, Yogendra, know by another name, was in Sweden many years, and she's conveying also her best to you. She has great appreciation for you. Let's see, everyone. Okay, so what I like now, one of the things we've been talking about with the hermeneutics subject is context. So I think this will be kind of fun. I'd like you to read, I'm going to say CC Adi, not Adi, sorry, Madhya Lila 24, not 24, 4201. And the same, this is one verse, and the same verse is quoted in Antilila 8:34. It's a famous verse. It's from Madhavendra Puri. Ai dina dayardranata he, maturanata kadavalokyase. And what we want to do is look at the contexts of this verse, how it's being quoted, in what context. And so how is the context of the verse illuminating the verse, and how is the verse illuminating the context? And now context doesn't have fixed borders. You can think of context as concentric circles around, in this case, a particular verse. So you might think of the wider contexts, and you may want to think about yourself. Yeah, I've written the verse. It's one verse, and
excuse me, could you have sent it in a private message instead of, oh, there it is.
Yeah, I forgot to hit enter, sorry. Yeah, Madhya Lila 4201, until Lila 834. And Prabhupada also mentions one line of it in a purport in Adi Lila also, but basically it's all in this. The purports to at least one of these cases are there, short purports. And then maybe you can note down whatever strikes you about this subject, the verse, the context of the verse, and yeah, the bigger picture, the narrower picture, the picture for yourself. And this can be a nice meditation for this week. Okay, some of you are noting, I see, that's nice. And then next week we can talk about this. Krishna, 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 hey. Okay. Thank you all so much. And as I said, Yogendra Prabhu, I want to speak with you, but maybe I'll do that. We'll do that in a different way than just now. Can we all unmute ourselves and say, Gaur Premanande Haribol, thank you to Yogendra Prabhu.
Gaur Premanande.
Haribo.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Kaveri, for mentioning the mission.
Yes. Okay.
That was light here in the darkness.
Okay. So thank you all so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Vaishnava ki jai.
Jai.
Hey.
Itai Gaura Premanande Hari.
Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
His Holiness Krishna Kshetra Swami Maharaja ki
All glories to Guru Maharaj.
All his simple devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo, Haribo. Kaveri, Haribo.